So now we want to look at a few examples. The first example, x squared plus 6x. First example, x squared plus 6x. So we are asked to complete the square. Now, in other words, when they're asking us to complete the square, in other words, they're asking us, what value can we add to this expression to make it a perfect square? What value can we add to make it a perfect square? Now remember, how do we get the final value here? You divide this term by 2, the term next by 2, the b. Divide it by 2, what do we get? Yes, 3. And you square the result. So divide by 2 and square the result. You get 9. That's how we make it into a square. We make it into a square by adding 9. Alright? Divide by 2, or you half it, and then square the result. So half the 6, you square the result, you get 9. But remember now, you're rewriting x squared plus 6x. As a matter of fact, let me just take it into another line. So that was a problem. And this, just come down here. So you're rewriting x squared plus 6x. But before you do, you want to make it a perfect square. So you have x squared plus 6x. You half the 6, square the result. You get 9. But remember, you have to subtract the 9. Alright? You have to subtract 9. Because remember, you are rewriting x squared plus 6x. So when you finish your expression, you must end up with x squared plus 6x. Right? But we add and subtract 9 because this section is what we call a perfect square. What is a square? The square, so the x, and then you half the 6, right? We have 3. So this part is x plus 3 all square. And if you should expand, let's expand it together. This is x squared. And I always say we square the first term. You square the first term, you get x squared. Square this 3, you get 9. And take the product. The product is 3x. 2 times 3x is 6x. So this section here is x squared plus 3 all square. Alright? That's this part here. And then you have your minus 9 here. And that's it. Nice and easy. Good? So it's to complete the square means to rewrite the quadratic as this. Notice the a, well, technically the a here is 1, but the one normally put the 1, right? The h is a positive 3 inside there, and the k would be like the constant, negative 9 out there. Alright? Let's do another one. X squared plus 10x plus 4. So again, let us ignore the 4 for now. Let's focus on the x squared plus 10x part, and that's how we think of it. What can we add to x squared plus 10x to make it a perfect square? So focus on the x squared plus 10x part here. Alright? What can we add to x squared plus 10x to make it into a perfect square? Right? And how very easy to get that value. Half the 10, so half the b, or remember the b is what we call the coefficient of the x in a quadratic. So the a is 1, b is 10, c is 4. So we half the b, so we half the 10 and square the result. So what we'll have is x squared plus 10x, and get the number here. You half the 10, you get 5, square the result, you get 25. But you have to subtract back 25, right? Because remember, is x squared plus 10x, you're rewriting. So x squared plus 10x plus 25 minus 25 is still x squared plus 10x. But remember this 4? You have to put back the positive 4. Good? Now, this section, that's what we call a perfect square. Alright? let's write what's perfect square is this? X, put the X there, put the X square there, and the positive. And then you half the 10, that's 5, right? So, x plus 5 all square is actually x squared plus 10x plus 25. And you can, of course, expand and see for yourself. So square the x, remember, square the first term, you get x squared. Square the 5, you get 25. The product is what? 5x. And 2 times 5x give you 10x. So when you square this, when you expand this bracket, you get what we have underlined here. And then what's negative 5 plus 24? Alright, negative 25 plus 4. That's negative 21. I have a video on that. You can check how we look at adding or subtracting integers. So now, here we have another one. X squared plus 8x minus 2. And we are asked to complete the square. Now, as I said, focus on the x squared plus 8x. Alright, just focus on the x squared plus 8x. And ask yourself this question. What do I need to add to x squared plus 8x to make it, or to turn it into what we call a perfect square? Or a square, so to speak. And that's very easy to get that number. Very easy to get that number. So we have x squared plus 8x. How do I get the number? Half the 8, or divide the 8 by 2, you get 4, and square the 4. So half the value, the middle value here, and square the result. So half of 8 is 4, and when you square 4, you get 16. Positive 16. But then you have to subtract back the 16. I'll just separate this here. Alright? And again, look at it. It's x squared plus 8x. Remember, we're not changing the value of x squared plus 8x now. It's still x squared plus 8x. Because this is x squared plus 8x plus 0. Alright? So just remember, you're not changing the value. All you're doing is rewriting the value. Alright? So, and then remember, you have to put back your minus 2. You can't throw it away, you have to put it back. So we still have, notice this first step here. It's still x squared plus 8x minus 2. Notice this, x squared plus 8x, and then this part is 0, and then you have a minus 2. So the overall value of the expression does not change. It's just the expression, we rewrite it. Alright? Now, this part here, we should recognize now, is what we call a square. Alright? So, split the x squared, there we have x. Keep the sign there, we have plus. We half the b. Half the 8, we have 4. And let me just pause here. Again, if you should expand this bracket, remember, square the first term, you get x squared. Square the 4, you get the 16. And take the product, which is 4x, and multiply it by 2, you get 8x. So x squared plus 8x plus 16, rewritten, is x plus 4 all squared. And then minus 16, minus 2, you add and keep the signs, so that's minus 18. And that's it. Nice and easy. Let us look at another one. Practice makes perfect. Don't ever forget that. Alright, so again, we want to rewrite this quadratic expression here, but just focus on the x squared. Focus on the terms in x. Ignore the 5 for now. So we have x squared minus 4x. So you ask yourself this all the time for each of them. What do I need to add to the x squared minus 4x to make it a square? Or to make it what we call a perfect square. And to get that value is the easiest thing in the world to get that value. Divide the negative 4 here by 2, the middle term, always the middle term, I will call the b value. Divide it by 2 and you square the result. So if you divide this by 2, you get minus 2. You square minus 2, you get positive 4. So what you have is x squared minus 4x. Alright, and when you square the result, you square the minus, you get positive 4. Alright, but remember you subtract back the 4. So notice, what you have on the screen there is still x squared minus 4x, because it's x squared minus 4x plus 0. Alright, and of course you have to put back your 5 out here now. Alright, so the original expression in terms of value is the same thing. This is x squared minus 4x plus 5. Because 4 minus 4 is 0. Alright? And then recognize now this is what we call a perfect square. And what is it? Alright, let's write it the square. So we split the x square, we have x. And remember the sign, you have to follow the sign, whatever sign is it. We had plus here, plus, so it's minus. You're in the bracket there. And then you have this b value here is 2. And you have a square. And then, so what we just rewrite is that, right? What we just rewrote is this here. So we just rewrote. And then negative 4 plus 5. That's positive 1.